Alright, this is the last video finally for example 2. So we got through the first 4 steps for the most part of our hypothesis test. We got through calculating our p-value. But now we actually want to make some type of decision. So really, is there evidence that he has a higher approval rating in May of 2019 compared to he did in February of 2019? So now we're going to finish our hypothesis test. So what we found at the end of the last video was this p-value. Right, so in step 4, we did all that work, and we got a p-value equal to 0.0028. So all of that math is right here that we did. So now to finish up step 4, we need to go back up to step 2. We have a p-value. Is it less than 0.05? Why, yes, it is. It is less than 0.05. So because that is true, I am then going to reject the null and believe my alternative, because this is exactly true. So because of that, I will reject my null hypothesis and believe the alternative hypothesis. So if I believe the alternative hypothesis, I do believe that his approval rating has increased, because that's what my alternative hypothesis was, is that it is bigger than 39.9%, and that means that it had increased. So now we're going to write out that interpretation, but following this form that we talked about in this steps video. So we're going to first talk about what our alpha was, and then decide whether it's statistically significant or not, and then say the alternative hypothesis in words. So let's talk through each of these pieces. So our alpha that we used for the problem was 0.05. So that's what we're going to say there. We also defined what statistically significant meant. Statistically significant is when you reject the null hypothesis. So what did we do? Did we reject the null hypothesis? Yes. So I choose the is when I do reject the null hypothesis, and I instead choose isn't if we do not reject the null hypothesis. So that's how I choose between those two words, is simply based upon did I reject or not. And then finally we're going to say to support our alternative hypothesis in words. So let's see if this makes sense as we put it all together. So our alpha is 0.05, or if you prefer, you could say 5%. Significance level because we rejected, we are saying there is our statistically significant evidence. To support and again, our last thing is the idea of the alternative hypothesis. So our alternative is that his approval rating had increased. So there is evidence to support that. The president's approval rating in May of 2019 has increased from that 39.9%. So the president should be happy to know that his approval rating had increased. That's what our data supports. So now you've seen all 5 steps, again, broken up so that primarily if you need to come back and rewatch the videos, you don't have to rewatch the entire thing. And so in the next video, we're going to take this example and talk about how things would change if we just changed the goal.